and Meredith. There we go. I am gonna show you how to make a barrette. I have made many barrettes, and I guess I'd like to impart some wisdom on how to make one that I make. First, you'd like to start out with a barrette, preferably, you know, one that has a silver, you can't see them from here, but a silver blank top here. It makes it much more easy to work, and you can create your own. This is how I make mine. I have a 2-inch and a 3-inch. You also use washi tape. Now when you use the washi tape with the 2-inch, there's a little, here, I'll show you. There's a little side piece on there that that sticks out kind of like right there, that you got to take an X-Acto knife and just kind of cut along there and just cut it off there. So, but for this barrette, I'm going to make a 3-inch barrette. And I just noticed that you can't see what I'm doing because everything's in the way. Let's see. There it is. So you need what I use. You can use variations, I guess, of these, but the 2-inch or 3-inch, they do have smaller. They have alligator clips. They have different size alligator clips. They have different types of alligator clips. Then you need washi tape. They have different sizes. I don't know where my bucket of washi tape is, but they have different sizes. So they have thinner tape, they have thicker tape, they have really tiny washi tape. It just depends on how intricate you want to get. So you could put a larger washi tape on there and then put a thin line of a thin washi tape over it. You can also do that. Like I said, there's very different ways to do it. I think today I'm going to do a green one for Strawberry Fest. And you can also put beads on it. Actually, no. I'm going to do a heart so you guys can see that. So I'll be putting a bead on there. So I guess I got to pick a color. Oh, and you also need, if I can open it, we'll have a bead. There. You also need, what I use is Mod Podge gloss. I use the gloss kind. I've never used the matte. I don't know how that turns out if you do. And then Mod Podge Dimensional Magic. And they have Dimensional Magic that is with glitter, but I found that kind of clouds up the design of the washi tape, because they have many different varieties of washi tape. So it's kind of fun because they got holidays, they just have all sorts of washi tape. It's exciting buying washi tape. But yeah, it's a dimensional, it's a 3D, it's very interesting, this Dimensional Magic. And then you use the ballpoint pins, and then I have a container to put mine in, so none of my pets step on a needle. So, oh, not a needle. Well, yeah, a pin. And then trusty Q-tips, which you'll see why. And you'll see why for the ballpoint pins in a minute. So I guess, well, I did start with yellow, so I guess blue. We'll do some blue hearts with yellow. Why not, okay? Okay. So the first thing you want to do is, we'll get rid of that. You want to take your barrette. I always make sure that, this is just personal preference, the part that snaps off is on my right, so I don't accidentally put the bead on the wrong side. It depends how you want, when you put the barrette in your hair, the bead will be on a certain side. So if you don't do a bead, it doesn't really matter which direction, unless there's a design. You don't want the design upside down on the other side of the barrette. So you got to pay attention to the design of the washi tape. Let's see. So the washi tape, when you start, I use a little tail, and then you, oh, there's a piece of hair on there. First you make sure there's no hair, and then pet hair, and then you make a little tab, and then you line it up with the edges, and the bigger ones with the smaller size tape you don't need to, but you just line it up with the edges, and you press down, and then you take your, oh yes, you also need an X-Acto knife, yeah, and then you just kind of cut it like that, and then you tip it over and you cut it right at the end, and then you flip it around and you cut it right at the end again. Sometimes there's a little itty bitty excess right there that you can just, you know, shave off if there's any excess hangover. It gets in the way later on, so you just want to make sure that you don't have any of that, because it's a pain in the butt. That's all there is to it. Which this, ironically, has a tear in it, so I have to do this again. So you line it up, which tears do happen, so sometimes it's a struggle to get it on the first try, which is okay. Have no fret. I'm sure we've all been there. Just have to have patience when you're learning something new. I kind of weaseled my way through how to learn this. So then again, you cut the sides, and there's always usually a little corner piece there for some reason, because the sides are round. Some don't have round sides, so, which is interesting, just depends on the style of barrette. And then, ta-da! Okay, so the first step, you take your Mod Podge gloss, which I got a rather large container, but I'm selling my barrettes, so I have to make them, like, a lot of them, and so far I think I'm up to like 200 of them or something, 200 sets, so that's a lot of barrettes. So so then you dip the Q-tip in it. This is where the Q-tips come in, and you just kind of dab it on there, but make sure you kind of get the tips, both ends, because sometimes the tape likes to pop up, so you got to make sure you press it down really good when you put the tape on there, and then you just kind of brush the glue on there. You might have to do double dipping. Oh, yeah. And then just make sure it's glued. I didn't get any on that time. Okay. Let's see. Just make sure you get a nice bit of glue. you gotta let it dry. Okay. So as that's drying, I had one drying. It's almost done drying. So I guess, well, I'll put it on anyway because it's okay, it'll still dry. So while I'm waiting for that one to dry, I will get out what I need. My ballpoint pen, and I open that container to chuck it in. And sometimes with this Dimensional Magic stuff, it gets gunked up on the top, so you have to, hair everywhere. That Dimensional Mod Podge sometimes sticks. It's like, well, it is glue, but you have to poke a hole in the top and just spin the needle, the pin around to open up the top so it'll come off. And la-di-da. And it should. Okay, so for this, you can either do a strip or dots until you get more used to it. I would suggest dots. So you would put, for a large one, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 7 or 8 drops. And then you take the pin, I don't know if you can see this because you might be far away, but you spread it out and you make sure you go over all the edges to really seal it in there. And if you have to add more, you can, because I kind of gob this on. And, yeah, I just kind of gob it on there. And then, I'm going to need more. I didn't put enough on. It always bubbles, and it's really quite annoying that it does that. Because then you got to pop the bubble, because otherwise there'll be a bubble when it dries. There'll be a bubble in the glue when it dries, which actually, you know, depending on what it is, it'll have a nice effect, you know. But just make sure you get all the edges and just keep adding glue if you need to. I mean, or the Dimensional Magic, whatever. Just add more magic. Pop. It's gotta pop. There we go. And then, like I said, you gotta make sure that it's on the right side. Okay. Then you take your heart or whatever, if you're going this route. Otherwise, you stop after you put the Dimensional Magic on. You stop. But if you're gonna put a bead or something on there, this is when you would do that. And this is, I mean, there's probably multiple ways, but this is the way I found works the best. So I put it on there, right close to the edge, where I think it looks good. Smush her down there, and it might slide. So I hold it a little till it's not going to slide. Takes a couple seconds, and then I set it aside to dry. And then, let's see, I got a finished one. Here is a finished product. That is what one that is finished looks like. Well, that's probably a bad example. Here's a finished one. So, I know these are the 2-inch ones, so they were smaller, but they still take the same amount of time to dry. Let's see. I think I have too much of the Dimensional Magic on there. And if you think you do, you can just kind of take some off the top. And sometimes it does like to roll down the barrette and kind of condense down at the bottom here. So if you have to, you can always take the top of the ballpoint pen and and collect some of it. So then I just pop that in there, put on the top, close her up, and if you're wondering why I'm not doing the other one, I have to wait for the glue to dry, and I have to wait for that to dry, and typically I usually have the heater on, which makes it really warm. It takes anywhere between 20 minutes, sometimes an hour for this glue to dry. Whoopsie! Depends, oh dear. Depends how much glue you put on, or Mod Podge. So, if you're one that has to, make sure it's completely covered, it's probably going to take an hour. And once you get, to know the Mod Podge more, you might start doing a little, thinner layer. Just depends what your personal preference is. But the Dimensional Magic takes a little bit longer. I think they suggest a 24-hour drying time. I make sure mine's at least set before I put it on the card, and then put it where it belongs. So I hope all that was helpful. So yeah. If you need any or have any questions, I'm, I guess, redheaded Finn. Thanks. This is Meredith. Bye. Doodles.